evening, and welcome to another episode of the Unstoppable Overcomers. And I'm your host, Dorothy Odell, for this evening. I want to kick this off by saying thank you so much to our sponsor of the show, Be Oily with Bonnie, for all your doTERRA oil needs. Get a hold of her at 1-810-414-0929 or go to her website, beoilywithbonnie.com today. This episode could cause trigger warnings. Just want to put that out there. We are kicking this off the month of May with mental health awareness, and I thought, what a powerful way to bring men onto the show, because men deal with issues too, and they just don't talk about it. But I am super excited to bring to the stage Drew, Mark, and Andrew Maisonville to the show. Welcome, guys. I am excited to have you here. This is going to be a powerful episode. And, a lot of men suffer in silence. Women have a tendency to talk more where men don't. And all of you I've been associated with all of you over at least the last 6 months. And it's becoming very apparent that, men need help too, as well, and that's why I brought you men here together. So Drew, if you could start us off by sharing a little bit about your story, who you are, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. I began my professional career in healthcare for 24 years, and after I left unceremoniously here, and my life began to change. And I always start my story is saying in July of 2015, I learned from my best friend that my wife was going to leave me. We went through 3 years of mediation to keep the kids out of the court system. And in April 2018, my divorce was final. Through myself, my own 50th birthday party on October 6, 2018. A week later, or 2 weeks later, actually, I was let go from my job. I had reported a HIPAA violation, and 2 weeks later, I was let go. 10 days after that, my son had suicidal ideation. I was with him for 40 days straight until we found him some help. And then Christmas Eve in 2018, my father passed away. So my message really is that things happen all around us. It's inevitable. It's part of life. Our thoughts about those external circumstances really dictate our next course of action. And in 2018, like I told you, 4 major life events tested me. My divorce, for which I blame my wife. My job firing, for which I blame my boss. My son's mental wellness issues, for which I blame myself. And the death of my father, for which I blame God. Challenged me to learn more about myself. And I want to let you know that for 20 years, more than 20 years, I wasn't really living life. I was going through the motions. Did you know that 95% of our brain activity is unconscious? We are on autopilot for most of our waking hours. How many of you have ever felt like your life was on autopilot? How many of you ever suffered in silence? How many of you are sick and tired of living that way? I know I am. I learned that I forgot how to really listen to somebody. I forgot how to be my true self. I lost my authenticity. Empathy abandoned me. I lost my self-identity. I knew I had to do something or else I was going to give up on life. I began telling my story to anybody who would listen. It was cathartic. It helped me heal. I no longer felt alone. I found clarity of purpose in my life. Things I once saw as barriers became opportunities. I took action. I changed many things in my life, and I'll share 3 of them with you here. First, I replaced regret with forgiveness, so I no longer lived in the past. Second, I replaced fear with desire and faith, so I no longer worried about the future. And finally, I replaced my victim mindset with gratitude, so I'd be anchored in the present moment. And I'm still a work in progress. Are you ready to learn more later so you can begin writing your own story instead of having others write it for you? Are you ready to begin now? Choose wisely, because there's no better gift than the present. What I do now, I'm a chief resilience officer with Profit Compassion. I empower men to be a better version of themselves. Encouraging men to shift their mindset by sharing their story empowers them to improve self-awareness and begin to practice self-care, all to boost self-confidence. This is important because isolation and conformity kill desire and faith. I'm known as the men's real catalyst speaker. I'm a mindset mentor, and I host 2 compelling podcasts, and I have a book coming out called I'll Have What She's Having, Memoir of a Reformed People Pleaser. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Drew, for sharing your story. And sorry, guys, Mark had to leave. Mark is a fireman out in Lakeland, or around the Lakeland area, Florida, Lakeland, Florida area. And he's actually at work. And I thought, great if he could join us, because part of what he's going through, his department has lost 6 guys recently within their department due to suicide. So I know that his story is powerful, but he is at work. And if he can come back, great. If not, well, as you heard the beep, 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 that was them getting a call. So I just messaged him, and if he can come back, great. But if not, we totally understand. But I plan on having Mark back at some point, because I mean, to lose 6 guys to suicide in a short period of time, not only, you know, is that hard on the department, it's hard on the families. And when you're a first responder, you know, they all work together as a family. So those 6 families' lives were affected, on top of you know, being in the firehouse as well. So if he can come back, great. If not, then we're definitely going to have him come back. But Andrew, super excited to have you on. Andrew is actually local, so I'm excited to have a local local person as well. So Andrew, tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I mentioned earlier that I was a lifestyle coach, but I wasn't always a lifestyle coach. I was a broken person, just trying to find my way for a long time. And you know, I don't have much time to tell you my life story, but I'll get right into the part that I believe really changed me. We were having twin boys, and we ended up losing one of them. Tragically, they blamed us for the death of my son, and so we lost our kids, we lost everything. Um, I wasn't able to keep the house anymore. So in the end, they convinced the mother to, if she ever wanted a chance to get the kids back, that she had to leave or separate from me. So because they just wanted, like I had some issues back in the day when I was younger, so they profiled me and decided to go that route. So, you know, think of yourself as a man. You have a family, you have a home, and now you have nothing. And I lost my dignity. I lost everything. And now I find myself in a student room, no kids, no house, no woman. And I'm wondering, you know, is this it? And I remember I was partying. I turned to drinking. I turned to drugs. And the only thing I lived for was to party and get away and just try to escape my pain. But every time I had to face myself again by myself, I didn't want to live. So suicide was looming over me every day. Depression was through the roof. Ended up turning to the medical system for a while. Those meds made me a lot worse, pushed me closer to suicide. And, you know, we had to go through court for those 2 years, and only to, you know, get cleared by the coroner finally after 2 years. So, you know, we knew we didn't do anything, but they still put us through the ringer. And so by the end of it, we come on the other side, we get our kids back. But I don't know if you know this, but when you go through something like that, your family never recovers. So we got the kids back, my daughter, my son, my remaining son. But, you know, we were robbed of our opportunity to grieve for my son, Jaden. We were robbed of our opportunity to grieve for the destruction of our family. And so when we came back, it was a rushed process, and we fought, we argued, we couldn't get along, and ultimately we had to make the decision to leave each other. And you know, it's not about me or her being toxic; it's about what happened and the toxicity it created. So that put me on a path by myself for a while, and you know, I started doing videos in 2017. The videos made me feel better, but I didn't realize I was starting to impact other people. So once someone showed up on my doorstep and gave me a hug and told me, you know, you're really helping me change my life. Thank you so much. And they were crying. That made me responsible. And I had to make a decision right then and there: stop or go all the way. So I did go all the way. And I realized that while I'm healing other people, I'm also healing myself. Just right now saying this, I'm healing and I feel it. And I'm not afraid to get vulnerable. I'm not afraid to cry on air or in person. But you know, life is really tough. I was going to check out, guys, and I decided to fight. And I started incorporating health and fitness. For a while, I didn't and slipped and got really big, and I was 334 pounds. But I fought. I got it off, and now I'm in the best shape of my life, thanks to Jermaine, of course. And you know, where I'm at now, sky's the limit. And now I'm in a world where I can help teens. I can influence them to steer off on the right path and not make the mistakes that I made when I was younger. And I realized that, you know, I may have been abusive verbally and physically at one time towards women, towards men, towards anybody, not kids, of course. But I was really abusing myself, and I wasn't facing the voids that I had. And I led a life where I was trying to fill those voids for years. And once you lose something, you can't fill it again. So I just want to say that where I'm at now, I'm very happy, and I'm very content. My peace of mind is through the roof. And, you know, I love making food for people. And I also take a piece of my life coaching and put it into the food. I leave little inspirational notes on the boxes that I give to people. Anything I do is to inspire and uplift others. So that's where I'm at now. And I'm grateful because I was ready to check out.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for sharing that story. That is powerful. And guys, if you're in the Windsor area, Windsor, Ontario area, definitely you got to get the experience that Andrew offers with his chicken wings. My husband and I had them last Saturday, and when he showed up at the door, he was right. There are inspiration sayings on the packages. I still have those packages because they're reusable. So each time we go to use these packages, you know, my husband will see those messages. So thank you. And the wings are truly an experience. You might even, Drew, you might even have to come to Windsor, Ontario.
I think I may have
to get the experience, the complete experience. So definitely, thank you both for being vulnerable enough to share your complete story. And that is why we're here, guys. This is why I wanted to kick this month off, Mental Health Awareness Month, with such powerful stories. And as women, I don't think we realize the just what it is that men go through, right? And yes, you know, losing, and Andrew, I am so sorry for the loss of your son. And as a woman, you know, she handles it differently than a man would. And hearing how, you know, your side of the story, which men don't like to talk about their feelings usually, has been my experience. And I'm really wanted to bring light to this situation so that as women, we understand what it is that you guys are going through. You know, it's not to say that we know that you go through something, but you guys don't talk about it usually. And it's hard for a woman to say, okay, you know, and sometimes when you guys don't talk, we shut down because we don't know how. Like, we're fixer. Well, speaking for myself, I'm a fixer, so I want to make sure that my spouse is okay, that he's great, and that everything's wonderful. And I don't know, if you don't talk about it with me, I don't know how to fix it, and I don't know, you know, what to do. So that's why we're here sharing this, so that each of us understand, coming from both sides, both of the sexes, coming, you know, instead of the battle of the sexes, we're gonna help, because I want to reverse the battle of the sexes. I want to bring us together, right? And I heard the saying this week, and I absolutely love it. Healing is sexy, no matter if you're a man or woman, right? And so by men being, could you imagine if the entire world was healed, what our life would be like, what our world would be like? Holy cow. And that's what, be the change. That's my message. That's what the message I've been getting is, be the change. So that's why I had you guys here. So so Drew, I'll ask you first, what is, when you were going through those things like your divorce and your dad dying and your son, you know, attempting to kill himself. Did you feel that you had any support?
I knew I did have support. I didn't feel like I did, and that's us playing with our own minds. You know, we create our own narrative in our brain. So I at the time didn't realize my brain was a tape recorder. So any negative thought I was thinking or anything I was saying, I've learned now that our subconscious just knows us.
Mhm.
It doesn't know the difference between us and other people. So when I'm blaming other people, my brain thought I was blaming me. And the more you say that kind of stuff, the more it anchors, the more you believe it, and you end up creating a habit.
Mhm.
So no, I didn't think I had support. I also shunned my support system. I turned away from God because I blamed God for taking my father.
Yeah.
I did blame my wife for the divorce. Um, it takes 100% effort on both sides in a marriage. So I now know I played a major part in, that. I so no, I really thought I was on an island all by myself.
Right. Okay. And Jermaine is just popped up, so I just want to bring Jermaine into this conversation. So we are recording. Jermaine, I know, has been on our show on episode 99, but his story is so impactful, and we're here today to talk about. We're starting off May with Mental Health Awareness Month. And I thought, what a great way to, like I said, if you're just joining us for the first time, what a great way to bring men into this equation, because men generally don't talk. So, Jermaine, if you could share your story, because I know your story is powerful too. And, what it is that you've gone through and the mental, what it's taken emotionally and mentally for you to get to where you're at. So if you could briefly share your story.
Well, at first, I'm gonna take you back to my childhood, and I was 18 years old, and I received a phone call from one of my sister's friends, and she said that they couldn't find her. So right away, I was like, what do you mean you can't find her?" So eventually, we found out that my sister went to the uh, she went swimming with them, and she ended up drowning. So that was a big hit on me at 18 years old. And then following year as well, my father had passed away suddenly too. So within a 2 year span, my life was turned upside down. And I tried to think about ways to overcome it, to just feel better about myself. And and at that point in time, this was 20 something years ago. uh like counseling and all of that was it was kind of it was done but unheard of, especially with our community. So I never really spoke to anybody about this, and it took years upon years to get through it, because at the point in time I tried to get through it really quickly, and I tried to block it, and I tried to block it by playing sports. And because I was always in sports, which was a good outlet for me, and it kept me from doing things that was going to hurt myself, for sure. Kept me on a positive note, but it still didn't allow me to deal with, which was deeper, that I kind of suppressed. And as years went by, I got to about, so this is happening between 18 and 20. And about 12 years later, my mom had got sick and she passed away. And it was Christmas. It was Christmas, and that was too unexpected. I didn't expect anything like that. My mom hasn't really been sick, and it was just something that just happened quickly. And at that point too, I still was almost still grieving from when I was 18 and 19. Like my heart didn't feel full. It felt like there still was a void. And when I would reminisce, I would get kind of emotional and stuff like that. But, you know, when I did get emotional and I did release it, it did make me feel better. So now we're taking me to now, which I was 2020, and I got diagnosed with cancer. And at that point in time, I didn't know what to do, but I knew I was going to keep fighting. I knew I made a vow to myself that I would be the most optimistic person with cancer. And I said, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad, I'll embrace it all. I'll learn from every situation. And that mindset allowed me to, like, I feel like it helped me battle with the cancer. Not battle, it kind of like, I never looked at it as like F cancer. Or, I just looked at it as, what can I learn? What should I do? And as I kept going through the process, I learned more. And then people would say, man, it must suck that you got to go to the hospital all the time and be at the hospital. And I just looked at it, I said, you know what? I said, I'm getting a medical degree. So I get to spend a lot of time with doctors, specialists. I would never got that opportunity before. And I said, I've learned so much about my form of cancer from my studying. And I honestly feel like I do got a degree in that subject, because as much as I studied, you know, I have other degrees as well that I went to school for, but this one was more practical. You know, I was actually hands-on. I was the patient. And how much more am I going to be invested into the patient? So that's what I just kept doing. I kept thinking positive thoughts, kept thinking about, what is it that I need to do? Is it something internally? Is it something that I went through that created this? Is it something that's unresolved? So it made me go a little bit deeper. It made me reflect on life. It made me have these deep conversations with myself, you know, and ask myself, you know, why am I here? What's my purpose? What makes you agitated? What makes you angry? You know, almost, you know, going through every emotion that I had, and trying to deal with it. And even though at the point in time, maybe I don't want to deal with it. Maybe this is from a 20 years past. Maybe this is trauma from when I was 18 years old and now I'm 45 years old. Maybe this is trauma that I had when I was 32 years old, right? Maybe these are unresolved issues, and I just want to get to the deep root of the problem, you know? So I don't want to mask it. I don't want to cover it. So I tell people all the time now, even though that I still do treatment, I still have this cancer that is, they see it's treatable, but it's not curable. You know, and I told my doctor anyway, I said, honestly, I'm going to cure it, just to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I have no doubt in my mind. I don't want to focus on curing it. I want to focus on the lesson. I want to focus what I can learn from this. I can focus on, and this could be a blessing in itself. You know, I get to learn about myself. I would have never, this never would have never happened. I would have never took no time to actually learn myself, to get to know myself, to ask myself, to question myself, because we're just keep moving. You know, in life, you just keep moving fast. You know, you don't get any time to process any information. And when I was in the hospital, I got a chance to process information. I got a chance to appreciate life. I got a chance to have gratitude. You know, like just going outside in the fresh air, like I told plenty of people before, it felt great. It felt great to walk, because at one point in time it was gone for a few weeks. I couldn't really move.
Right.
And all those things I started to appreciate and not take for granted. So in a way, it changed my life.
Right.
And it's not, I don't look at it as changed my life for bad. It changed my life for the good.
Right.
It made me the person that I was meant to be. And I got the opportunity to be this person earlier compared to later. Because sometimes people, when they get on their dying days, they can't do anything about it. But I still have a good chance to do a lot of things about it. And I got a lot of things that I can share with others, and to bring more awareness to cancer. And I told people, I said, I'm the ambassador of cancer in Canada. I am. They said, well, there's no such position. But I said, I'll make it one. So I'm the ambassador. And then by being an ambassador, I got to go do what I have to do to bring enlightenment to cancer and to change the narrative about cancer and to actually build something and do something a different way so we can actually be able to treat this and cure this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jermaine, for sharing your story and how powerful that is. And I noticed the connection between all three of you guys is that at first, it was a different mindset. You definitely went through a mindset shift from blaming to taking on ownership and really empowering yourself instead of being the victim. So that was like all the way through, and kudos for you for taking that step in each of your journeys, and realizing that it started with you. And and the reason why we're here today is because guys just really don't talk about their problems, usually, has been my experience. And that's why we wanted to each one of you has such a unique story that you're bringing to the table, and the things that you went through. Like Drew, I know Jermaine's just coming on. So Drew went through a divorce. He went through losing his dad. His son tried to commit suicide and all of that, and got a divorce, lost his job wrongfully. And then Andrew's story, losing his son, and then him and his wife being blamed for the death of his children until it found out that, or his child, and then finding out after years of hell that, wait a minute, no, they weren't the ones to do that. And then Jermaine, all that loss at such a young age, and then getting cancer, but thriving through it all. And the whole reason why I started this show was to give a platform for people to share their story, so that the people listening could understand, wait, I'm going through that too, and I don't give up. That there's always somebody that is going through something, but don't make a huge decision in the moment to end it because you think it's too hard. And with 136 people dying by suicide per day, and it could be any one of the combinations of what you gentlemen have been talking about, that could easily have taken somebody else out. But you guys all decided, no, I'm staying, I'm fighting, and for what I believe in, and fighting for others. And that's why we're here today. And so by sharing your stories, how each one of you said it has healed you in some way, to be able to do that. And so what would you say to the man that's listening to this, and or his spouse that's listening to this, that they can think, okay, well, wait a minute, if I did this or this differently, how could that have helped my spouse? So by sharing your stories, what is the one thing that you want other guys to take away from this? The guy that's like, oh, I'm too, I don't want, nobody needs to hear my story. Nobody, I don't want to talk about it. What would you say to that man right now that is hurting and in pain and suffering in silence? What would you say to that one man right now? Drew, we'll start with you.
First thing I would ask is, are you living life as the victim? If the answer is yes, then that's check number one. Are you living life with regret? If the answer is yes, that's check number two. Are you living life with fear of the future? If the answer is yes, that's check number three. Those three things are what I addressed. And when you put gratitude into your life for the things we're grateful for, and I'm talking about everything, things that we take for granted, I started to replace my victim mindset with gratitude, which started to anchor me in the present moment. And when you think about it, guys, when you regret something, you're regretting something in the past that occurred. You can't change that. So if you forgive yourself for anything you may have done and forgive others for the error of their ways because they know not what they do, that forgiveness started getting me away from depression, because depression is more often than not caused by regret of the past. Anchoring gratitude and forgiveness allowed me to look forward, and I began to replace my fear of the future. We can't change that either. So I replaced fear with desire and faith. First two chapters of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Desire, what I want to be, who I want to be, and the faith that I'm going to be that. And just you think about what you do for your brain. We talked before, your brain's a tape recorder. So imagine living as a victim with regret and fear, and replacing that with gratitude, forgiveness, desire, and faith. It changes the recording. And that and it's something you guys can start doing right away.
Love that. Andrew, what would you say to the guys that are hearing this podcast right now, to just to be able to for them to start to open up?
I would say to start within themselves in terms of self-love. I'm a big advocate for self-love. That's what changed my life. That's what made me look at the world I live in, which was hell. I turned it into whatever paradise I wanted it to be. So does that mean I'm living a fantasy every day? Absolutely not. It starts with self-care. It starts with my environment. That's how self-love is projected into my life. Where I live, where I spend most of my time, I make sure it's tidy. I make sure it's organized, because you don't want that to add to the stress that you have in your own personal life. You go from there, and now you got to have a purpose. And I usually try to ask myself 4 things to find a purpose. What do I love? What does the world need? What am I good at? And what could I possibly get paid for? That gives you some incentive to keep fighting. That gives you some incentive to find your passion. And by doing those things, you can avoid a whole world of, wasting your time. Time is the most valuable thing. So if you treat time preciously, I think that also helps. But, surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded, people that actually uplift you and support what you're saying and what you're doing. And some people, they enter your life, and the whole time you thought that they were supposed to remain there and that they were a support system, but it turns out that they had their claws in you, and that they were holding you back, and they were dragging you into their world and veering you off of the path you were supposed to be on. So if you have self-love, you have foundation to ground yourself and make yourself stable, so that nobody can do that to you. It's important to stay focused on your goals and stay focused on your world. So what I would say to men out there, voice yourself, let it out, because if you keep it in, it could lead to a whole world of uncontrollable thoughts, uncontrollable actions, and things that you'll end up regretting. So by letting it out, which I call steam valving, you create a healthy environment for yourself, healthy mind frame, and you're able to fight for another day, every single day.
I love that. And Jermaine, what would you tell the guys out there that are listening to this podcast right now?
What was the question again?
If for the men that are listening to the podcast right now that are in the situations where you guys were, where they're ready to give up, they don't talk about their feelings, they're bottled up and just waiting, like basically like a ticking time bomb ready to go off, what would you say to that gentleman right now that he could use to change that situation, to get him over to the other side?
First things first, Drew spoke about self-love, right? You got to know why you're doing something. And self-love is, I'm going to tell them and say, you know what? You got this stuff bottled up in you. And if you love yourself, you're going to have to release. When we run, when we work out, we release sweat. You got to continuously release. So crying, emotional release, it's going to relieve the pressure. And I'm going to tell them, you want to be more like water, more like water, not so acidity. Because you have a pop, you shake the pop, you keep the lid on. As you're shaking it, when you open it, it explodes. You're like water. You're calm. Sometimes you can crash. Sometimes you can be soft. So you shake the bottle. When you put down the bottle, it's still cool. So think about those things in you. So if we're taking in acid, which is poison, toxic, whatever it is, and you're taking it in this bottle and you're never releasing it, you're eventually going to explode. And not only you're going to explode, and when you explode, you're going to, all the pain and all the sore, whatever that you had, it's going to now bleed onto others. It's going to go to others. So you're going to end up hurting the people that you actually do care about. You know, people care about you. And I would say to them and say, if you think this is your last day, just give me one more day. Can you fight one more day? Can you get to tomorrow? And if he says yes, and then when we get to that day, I say, can we get one more? And if he says yes again, and then we'll keep doing that. And next you know, 2 weeks have passed, 3 weeks have passed, 1 month has passed. Can you get to another day? Because all we want to do is live to fight another day.
Yeah.
That's what they say. But that's what you have to believe. Live to fight one more day. They don't say live to fight another 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Live to fight one more day, one day after other. You know, anytime you're having the pain, you're sore, just fight one more day, man. It will start to reduce. It'll get better. Just one more. And that's what I would tell them. I said, take one more step. When you're in that dark hole and you're in that dark tunnel, it's not dark forever, man. It's not. Just keep taking another step. Keep coming closer to the light. And eventually that light's going to shine brighter. And that's you as an individual. Don't let the things that hurt you take you out because it won. Do not do that. Don't let the things that hurt you allow it to hurt others. Because if you take yourself out, you must have at least one person in your life that loves you. You do. Think about that person when you're going to do this act, and think about what they're going to feel when you do this.
Yeah.
And I know you don't want to hurt them, and I know you feel pain, and I know you feel it. And that's what I would tell them if I was talking to them. I know you feel it because I felt it too, and it damn hurts. But just fight one more day. That's all you have to do. Take one more step. You know, just like building a wall, it takes one brick. One brick. Just lay one good brick. Think about one good thought. And one good thought can lead to two good thoughts. And two leads to three. It's a compound effect. I don't expect you to think the whole world is great. You have 1,000 things and 999 are bad. Think about the one that's good. Focus on that one. Because then the other 999 don't even mean anything. Because your whole focus and attention is on the one that's good. And we're going to multiply that one that's good and we're going to make it 10. And then we're going to end up making it 100. And we're going to end up making 1,000. So think about the one good thought, the one more step, and the one person that loves you.
I love that. Focus on the one. If anything that anybody's gotten from this entire episode so far, it's focus on the one. And I love what you said. There's somebody that always loves you. I've shared this part and several times over, but not in this episode. But my uncle actually took his life Christmas Day 24 years ago. And for 10 years, it was a journey of anger, bitterness, being pissed off, and wanting others to pay for it. And it took, quite honestly, until I got healing myself. And the one thing that I learned out of that, I'm like, he left notes for his kids, but he didn't leave notes for his parents, and he didn't leave notes for his nieces and nephews, and he didn't leave notes for his brothers and sisters. And I thought, wow, like, why would you do that? And it's all coming here now, guys, out of this. This is the first time I've shared to this degree about this situation. And I was angry at him for a long time. And the one thing that kept me going was, I'm like, how could he do that to us? But not realizing, I realize there was obviously, like, he was mentally unstable. There was things in his life that he couldn't control. And there was things that he had done in his past that haunted him. Is what I've come to realize. And not knowing that at that time, and I was in my 20s at that time, so I was still young. And but what I realized was, like, wow, to be in his situation where he thought that was the only solution kind of devastated me, to think, like, wow, like we had such a big family at that time. Like, why couldn't he have just reached out to one of us, right? And because he come from a family of there was 5 kids in the family. I called the Fab Five. I don't know why I had to think about that now, but they were I called them the Fab Five. So, and my dad was the oldest. And so I'm thinking, like, why couldn't he just reach out to us? But to think that he was in that moment, that low, really affected me now that I've been on this healing journey myself, and thinking, okay, I never want somebody to feel like that ever. And in the moments, and I'm not going to tell you that life has not been full of those moments for me where I thought, hey, crashing my car into a tree would be a hell of a lot easier. And I don't have to deal with this shit. I don't have to deal with the pain. I don't have to deal with, all the crap that before and after. But what kept me, it was my nephews. And thank God my brother, at that time we were like, why did he do this? But he got, at a young age, he became a father. And those nephews is what's gotten me from point A to point B, because I helped raise the oldest one. The mom took off at a very young age. And so my brother got custody, and then he ended up getting married to somebody, and we won't talk about that. But anyways, I took the kids to go get their pictures taken, and I kept those pictures as a reminder. Every time I felt like giving up, I would either mentally think of that picture, or I still have the picture around here. It's in a drawer. But I would take that picture out and think, I will never let life take me to such a degree that I would end it, because what message was that leaving for these kids? And today, when I'm not saying I'm perfect. There's still days that I was just like, okay, I wish I was on a beach somewhere, or life would be a little bit easier if, but I never give up, because I remind myself still 20 years later of those pictures. Right. So whatever you got to do, like Jermaine said, whatever you got to do, take that next step, the one step that's going to lead you to the next step. And as women, we have support groups that we tie heavily into. And so I know Drew has started a men's vulnerability group. I don't know the proper name for it, so correct me. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But and I would like every male that is on here, because yes, he's in the United States and two of you are from Canada, but that doesn't mean that we can't all connect. The pandemic has done one great thing, and that is connect us all globally. So do you think, number one, besides Drew, are you guys connected to a tribe, and has that helped you? And if you, let's start with that. So we'll start with Andrew. Since I started Drew last time, we'll start with Andrew. Do you think, do you have a tribe, and if so, do you think that has helped you get through sometimes after that you're dealing with now?
When you say tribe, what exactly do you mean?
Okay, so when a group of men that you can count on that help you thrive through to the next, so in my tribe, we have a tribe of, there's 8 women that we get together bi-monthly now, and we do not let each other give up on each other's dreams. We're there, if we could count on them, if we're going through something, we just reach out, and one of them is there to help lift that person up. Do you have that in your life? Is the first question, and if so, has that helped you?
I would say yes, especially right now, doing these podcasts every night with Jermaine and our other friend, Vic. That has been more healing than I thought it would be. I actually thought that I already kind of healed on some of those things that we talk about. But once we do that, it's like more layers. And that's the one thing I noticed. There's always more to heal. It's a nonstop process. And, in terms of men's vulnerability, I'm an advocate for having an ace. I call it an ace. Have this one person in your life. You may not talk. I just spoke on this yesterday with Jermaine. You may not talk often. You may not hang out often. But no matter what you're going through, whenever you pick up that phone, they're going to talk to you and they're going to give you sound advice. Every one of us needs one of those. So I do have one of those. That's my first cousin. And, a lot of men, a lot of people, but a lot of men specifically are taking their lives because of a lack of encouraging word. And, for us here to have this ability to speak on these things, that creates an environment for these men to come and open up. So my tribe is currently, I believe it's not done growing. I believe it's just getting started. But I know that the process started internally for me. I may not be the chief, if you will, of the tribe, but I started the healing in here. And now I'm out here speaking to others. And the one thing I love is there's 3 of us here, and all 3 of us can learn from each other. There was supposed to be 2 others. If they were here, we would all learn from them too. We all have a different story, different paths. And I just believe that, when people isolate themselves, that's when the problems start. Mm-hmm. And so what we're doing here is not only a healthy avenue for us, but it also shows these vulnerable men, or these men that need vulnerability, that there is another door. And so that's what I would say.
Okay. And Jermaine, what about you?
Yeah, I have I would say it's a tribe. I have some good friends that whenever I need to speak about anything of importance, they're going to be there. They know me for some years. They're supportive. They're going to give me sound advice. They're not going to just always agree with me, which is good. If I'm doing something that's not correct, they'll check me on it. What I need. And then also, yeah, I do this, me and Drew, we've been doing this Facebook Lives, and another guy. So it's been good. It's been some wounds that I thought were healed, but weren't healed.
Right.
And I'm going back and trying to heal them. So it's allowing me to get out a lot of things that I suppressed and bring to the surface, because healing doesn't just start with what you eat. It doesn't start with what you do. Sometimes it starts with what you listen to and what you get out. So every day I feel like I got a detox. That's my thing. Detoxification. Detoxing through sweat, detoxing through tears. And I don't mind sharing the tears now, because if you notice, every time you shed tears, you become better, you feel better, because it's a release.
Right.
And every time you go work out and you sweat, it's a release. You feel better. So to me, that's a commonality. Right. So release, and then put something back into you that's good. Just like you would when you're working out. I sweat, I release everything, toxins within my body. I replace it with good water, good hydration. I cry, I release all those, whatever, it might be sadness, it might be happiness, it might be all these things. And I take in something good the next day. And then eventually I'm healing my body, I'm healing my heart, my emotional is becoming better, my mental is becoming better, all because I'm willing to release. And before, I was probably trying to think I was healing myself, but I never wanted to release. I didn't mind releasing through sweat, but I never wanted to release tears. Tell people, I said, it's okay to cry. It's okay to cry, but pick yourself up afterwards, though, and keep going. And that's what my tribe would say. It's like same thing what I would say to my tribe. Release, get out everything out of you. Your frustrations, your angers, your anxieties, whatever it is that what you're going through. But you got to get back up. you got to get back up. We can't keep crying forever.
Right.
You got to get
focus
back
on
up.
the one.
Yeah. You got to get back up. So let it go and let it go. Wipe up your tears, or like I would say, go back to your round. You're fighting for 3 minutes. You go back to your round. You regroup yourself, and then you come back out fight again. But you can't stay in the round. You can't stay on the stool forever, buddy. You got to get back out there and keep fighting again, at least until the end. If it's 12 rounds, let's fight 12 rounds, because we have one life, and one life could be 12 rounds, and we're going to use it. Anybody that's finished their life and they completed their life and they never gave up, everybody won.
Right.
Everybody won, because you didn't quit. And the only way you quit is if you take your own life. Don't quit. Finish it up. Finish what you started. Keep going. And then at the end of the day, it's a job well done.
Absolutely. And Drew, do you have a tribe, or at least somebody that you could count on too? And if so, have you felt that that's been definitely like a game changer for you?
Yeah, I mean, my entire youth and adulthood, I always made sure that in whatever arena I'm in, whether it's school, work, home, I had at least one mentor or a role model I can bounce something off of, and I always chose somebody who was already successful in that arena, you know. And when I formed this men supporting men collaboration tribe, I recruited 8 men across the country who have gone through hell and come through, and they're doing things for the community in all different ways. And I'll bounce stuff off of them. They're my founding members of my group. And I just utilized one the other day. My ex-wife has a boyfriend. The boyfriend reached out to me. He wanted to talk with me because he sensed some things with my son, and he wanted to talk with me. Before he said anything, he wanted to make sure he and I were on the same page. And I'm sitting here thinking, this is my ex-wife's boyfriend wanting to talk to me. The old Drew started thinking, so I called one of my 8 tribesmen, Rick, and I said, hey, listen, the old Drew's starting to creep in my head. I told him the story. And you know, he said to me, he said, Drew, think about the last 7 years, how much hell they have been because you've been at odds with your ex-wife. Now, this guy, if you say you can't trust him, you're going to convince yourself you can't trust him, and you will create somebody you can't trust. Think about that. If you sit and have coffee with him because he wants to help, you know, his girlfriend and help your son, think about how blissful the next 7 years are going to be. I said, wow. So I said, all right, help me craft an email to him. So and I said, hey, you know, thank you, so-and-so. I really appreciate that idea. Let's meet for coffee. And I did. I met with him, and it was unbelievable. And so now I'm healing in a different way. So yeah, there's always, my recommendation with a tribesman is always see what the issue is you want to resolve or talk about, and find somebody who's succeeded in that area. Don't always go to the same person all the time for every issue. Have a tribe, like have multiple tribesmen, and then you have the go-to person depending on what the issue is. That's what I've learned in my late adulthood.
I love that. And can I just say one thing to that? As somebody who is the new wife, at the beginning, it was, and I put myself into her position, in her shoes, where there's this woman coming onto the scene, you know, and I truly respect her. She's the mother, but keeping that open communication and saying, listen, I'm not here to take your position. I'm just here to make everybody's life a little bit easier. Let's put it that way, right? Being a support to everybody, and making sure that that little guy knows that he's loved, wanted, and appreciated. So good for you for. And I can see at first it being very uncomfortable. And trust me, it took us 3 years to get to the point where we could talk to each other openly. We now, on my son's birthday, last year was the first time that we all got together on his birthday. We went out for dinner, a family unit, to share with him that, wait, you know, we just don't talk the talk, we walk the walk, and we're here for you. And that's why we're here. We're here for you. So, you know, kudos for you for doing that. And so I know Mark is back. So Mark, thanks for joining us. So if you could share, you know, who you are, your background, and I did, when you had to leave, I did mention to the audience that you know, that you're a fireman, and that the reason why we wanted you here is because you had lost 6 people in your department to suicide in the last little bit. So that's the lead in that I had left when you left. So, but I know you're much more than that. You are an amazing guy, and I want the world to know who you are, and a little bit about your story.
Well, thank you. Hopefully I don't have to go back out again, because it's I'm currently on duty right now. So, you know, a good day for me is a bad day for a lot of other people. I've been a firefighter since 2006. Without going into too many war stories, have realized over the last few years what mental health and what vulnerability really means. I had an incident 2 years ago now that kind of spurred, that made me realize that I wasn't okay. It was a 3-year-old drowning, and it was right after my son's 3rd birthday. the call went. We got him back. And Dorothy, you've heard the talk I've done on it. Got him back 2 weeks later. Found out he was brain dead, and they took him off life support. Battled it for 6 months of before I found out exactly what happened and what the end was. And fortunately, found out that the family decided to donate, and 5 other children got a second chance at life because of the loss of that one. But some of that happened from it to me is I started having that feeling of feeling my hands that I felt when we were trying to revive this young child, and it came back every time that I helped. I went to go hug my son, to the point that it was painful for me to hug my son, which made me realize that I wasn't okay. And through a lot of talking, a lot of opening up, I've been able to get to a point that I don't have that feeling anymore. And then it opened my eyes even more that if I'm going through this, who else is? And encouraged me to join our peer support team with my department and to start being there for others. And the biggest thing is in our industry, and it's in the military, in law enforcement and firefighting, we have this persona of being almost larger than life, of being the tough guys, being those rocks, being that stable person, that we can handle anything. And yeah, when we put our proverbial armor on and jump on the truck, yeah, we can handle anything. But it's what happens when we get back, what happens before that call comes in, what happens after. And realizing it, that we're not taking care of ourselves because we have this stigma of being the tough guy, that guys aren't becoming vulnerable, and that leads to issues at home, issues at work. It leads to a lot of substance abuse issues, and guys not wanting to open up and talk. And I found by sharing my story and by sharing myself and opening myself up with some of the issues and things that I've dealt with, especially with our junior members of our department, it's encouraging them to open up and get more and get help and start talking now, so they don't end up into a point that I was at, and unfortunately, into a point that 6 of my brothers have been at, where they ended up taking their lives. So this is mental health has become an extremely important thing for me, because I've realized, if it happened to me, it happened to anyone, and I don't want anyone to have to go through what I went through. So I heard a little bit talking about your tribe, and I'm assuming that that's your support structure around you.
Exactly. Yes.
I've built, and I'd like to talk about that a little bit. I don't have just one little tribe that I deal with. I have multiple little tribes within my my big tribe of people that I go to for certain things, and people that will check me, will listen, people that understand. Because there's a lot too in this industry that people can experience secondary trauma just by me sharing my stories and getting into the details. And my wife, a lot of times, like, you share too many details when I talk to her, and she's like, yeah, you ran a car accident. Okay, cool. No big deal. And I go into the detail that it can cause that secondary trauma. So having those people that you can rely on, that understand, that can listen to you and help you through it, and just getting it out, and just being able to be real with yourself, to allow yourself to be real with others, and not be afraid of any judgment that may come. And I think that's the biggest thing, especially with men, is we're afraid that when we start sharing what our personal experiences, sharing what we go through, and how we're feeling with others, that they're going to judge us. They're going to look at us as we're less than, that we're not there, that we're not the tough guy. And that's the complete opposite. As I've gone through my journey, I've met, worlds of amazing people that, by the experience, just by, first looks, by, judging the book by the cover, you wouldn't expect, that ended up being huge softies when we start talking and opening up their experiences, and, come to realize, I'm sure everyone here has seen it, and I hope everyone listening, watching this podcast, that one of the most courageous things you can do is being real with yourself and being real with others, and being able to open up. One of the bravest things you can do is to step up and say, hey, I'm not okay. And then just start reaching out for help, and saying, hey, I'm not. I don't identify myself as a firefighter. That's what I do. I can't think of anything else that I would enjoy doing, love as much as what I am. But first and foremost, I'm a husband, I'm a father, and that's how I define myself. And I think, far too often, especially in that industry with first responders, they define themselves by the job that they do, and they feel they have to live up to those expectations.
Right. And thank you for sharing that, Mark, because I know that working with the veteran world and first responder world the last year and a bit, it's like you're expected to put this, like you said, the cape on because you're the superhero, right? But what people don't realize is once you're done, like you still have to deal with that trauma that you just seen. Running into a burning building and rescuing somebody, that's gonna leave something there, right? And if you don't deal with that, and then having a stigma of, oh, just suck it up. I hate when I hear people telling their kids just suck it up. No, why don't you just suck it up, right? Because I'm like, I won't even start on that road, because sometimes that can be a little bit that's my trigger point, working on that. But is that something that you guys feel that you've been told your life, like, oh, just suck it up, and do you think that that's why you guys suppress things for so long, because the society is like, no, just suck it up, man up, let's go. And I hate that term, man up. I hate that, but that's another one of my trigger points. But have you guys dealt with that in your career and or in your lifetimes, and whatever whether it be at home or in the workplace? We'll start with Mark.
100%. I had a junior member that I talked to recently going through a lot, and the guy's only been on 2 years on the job, and he felt that he couldn't talk about it because of the stigma around it, because everyone's gone through it already, and he felt like because he didn't have the time. And it's like, looking at him and talking to him about it, this is the time to do it. Had I known back early in my career what I know now, I would have started talking to people 12, 13 years ago, and identifying those things. And as I look back at my career, I found triggering incidents every time that my career started to become a little rocky. Everything where it wasn't going as positive as I'd like to be. I found a common thread through the entire thing, through my entire career. Every time it started to get a little rocky, and realizing now that how it affects me, so I can do it. In the fire service, it's kind of interesting, because that old suck it up buttercup and move on is changing, because we're trying to bring more. There's a shift, there's a movement to bring more into the mental health and the mental hygiene and mental well-being, and being able to be vulnerable and take the cape off. That I'm seeing the old guard, the guys with 20 plus years on, that are still in that old mentality of, nope, you can handle it. If you can't handle it, get out. And the young guys, 18, 19, 20-year-olds that are coming in, that, where it's more accepted in that generation to talk about what's going on. And I'm stuck right in between, watching this happen in front of me, which is really interesting, seeing the change, that it is becoming more acceptable to talk about, and we're not getting that. We're breaking down those barriers that, there's a time that you have to suck it up, and there's a time that you don't. For me personally, I take time every shift to go out back behind the firehouse and just look up at the stars, and just sit out back and just, listen to the sounds of the area around me, and disconnect from everything that's going on. Right. And I find that the nights that I don't do that don't go as well as the nights that I do. Just taking that thing and taking that time for myself.
Right.
I think I answered that appropriately. Can I pick the next one? Andrew.
What I was just going to say to that, I love it that the new generation is going to teach the old generation. Not that I'm calling you old, my friend, but I love how you said that, like, the new is going to teach the veterans. So yes, we'll go to Drew. What was the question I asked? Oh my gosh. Suck it up. Yes, that's what it was. Suck it up, buttercup. Have you ever been told that? And if so, did that fuel you or put the fire out?
Well, Andrew or Drew? We'll go. Let Andrew go.
Okay,
Andrew,
well, let's say Andrew.
Because Jermaine calls Andrew Drew, and then I get confused. So, Andrew, you go.
I was actually in a class with 6 Andrews, so you can imagine how that went. No, nobody's really said that to me. But I mean, if I'm going to try to answer this question, I don't let other people delegate what I should be doing. I'm very self-aware. I know what I need, and I know what I don't need. And that mentality is damaging. In a moment that you could have uplifted someone or encouraged them, you could have destroyed them, essentially. So saying stuff like that, I find that to be a little ignorant. But for me, I don't think I can answer because no one's really said that to me. I've never been in a position like that.
That's awesome.
I definitely heard man up. Or that, sort of the same thing, I guess. But I think it also depends on the context. If you're playing sport and your guys are competing against each other, that's the kind of trash talk you're going to hear. That's healthy. But in terms of when I was in a low moment, no one's ever said that to me in those times. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. I love that because I've heard it so many times that like I said, that is a trigger point for me. I just want to turn around and say, don't ever teach your kid that. Like, allow them to be who they are, allow them to express, because then you're just going to deal with 40-year-olds that have no idea how to be in a relationship. Let's heal our kids so that we don't have to heal the man or the adult or the woman too. Like, seriously. Jermaine, have you ever had that experience where you've been told to man up or suck it up buttercup?
Well, not exactly, but playing sports at a high level, I mean, it's competitive. So you're gonna playing sports, you don't want to show emotion. You don't want to show it at all. You don't want to show any weakness. You don't want to tell anybody what you may be suffering with. You don't want to tell someone that you're injured. You don't want to tell anybody any of these things because they're going to take advantage. And sometimes what we did on the court or on the field or whatever we did, we didn't realize that, okay, outside the court, you don't have to be like that. On the court, there's a place and time for everything. On the court, you want to be a killer, to be honest. That's what you want to do. You want to destroy everything. But off the court, you don't want to take that same mentality up. Because off the court, we should be uplifting and motivating, inspiring. And on the court, it's a different thing. I tell people, I said, and they sometimes wouldn't get me because they're like, on the court, this guy must be a jerk. I said, I am on the court. I don't have any mercy on the court. I don't care. I said, but off the court, I'm totally different.
Right.
I care about individuals off the court. I care about you as a person. I don't care if you play sports or whatnot off the court. I care about you as a person, as an individual. And I just think sometimes when you play sports or you're athletic or you're male and you're supposed to have a certain image, you don't want to let somebody in to show where you're weak. You don't want them to know that you're vulnerable, and even know that we're probably all vulnerable, and we're all hiding it, and we're all probably going home and wishing that someone understood us. But guess what? Everybody's just like us as well. We forget sometimes that the other individuals are just like us. But the only reason why we don't know that they're just like us because they're hiding it as well.
Right.
So I think, like I've had that with suck it up, and I don't take it personal because but it depends where we're at.
Right.
If we're playing a sport and it's competitive, it's like, man, you got to suck it up. Come on, let's go.
Right.
Now if you're at the low point, I'm telling you to suck it up. Well, that might be the wrong advice. You know?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it
I
could
get
be.
that.
So sometimes you have the right advice, but you're
Right.
giving it at the wrong time.
Right.
So someone could say, don't play the victim, but depending on what situation they're in,
Mhm.
that's appropriate or could it be not appropriate?
Right.
It's great advice, and we don't want to be the victim, but just look at the circumstance of where this person's at this time that you're giving this advice.
I love that you said there's a time and a place for everything, and I think it's a context. Yeah, I think the context I was trying to make was like if your son's crying and you just tell them to suck it up, right? I don't think that that's appropriate. I think and I'm not saying coddle him, because I think there's a fine line and a fine difference. When you're on the court, I'm with you. I'm 100% competitive, so I'm going to kick your ass on the court. But when it comes to like life and teaching our the next generation, or even hearing it ourselves, just suck it up. Like you've gone to a call, like Mark said, you've seen some horrific things, and your boss is telling you to suck it up and get out there. That's wrong, in my opinion. We should be there for each other. Drew, what has your experience been through all that?
Well, not necessarily the suck it up, man up stuff, but it's always been underlying. You take an example of even recently, there were 3 celebrities who were caught on camera crying, and immediately the next day on social media, there are all these memes of them crying. So that's what I mean about this underlying stuff. That's social media, the worst out there, and so is mainstream media, because they basically say it without saying the words. When you mock people when they shed a tear and they happen to be on camera, shame on them.
Mm-hmm.
So you, Dorothy, that I use the term man up. I was on a podcast and the host said I'm redefining what it means to man up, because my definition of man up is to utilize both strength and empathy. And what that means is be empathic and compassionate for individuals. The strength piece is keep strength around your self-identity. And I define self-identity as self-trust, self-worth, self-love, self-confidence, those 4 things. As long as you protect your self-identity and don't allow yourself to get walked all over, that's the strength piece. That's what it is to man up. And I actually, I want to throw a piece of data out there, guys, because data tells a story. 85% of physical ailments are due to unresolved internal stress. So for those men out there, letting it out, releasing it, as James says, scientifically helps you reduce potential physical ailments. It's like the body saying, hey, dude, you're not listening to me? Fine, I'll give you something physical, because we pay attention to the physical, right? So think about that piece of data. 85% of physical ailments due to unresolved internal turmoil.
Wow, that's powerful right there.
Yeah.
I have one last question, because I know we're past the hour, and I do apologize. And if anybody has to really go, then I appreciate your time. But I just have one question, because I believe it's important. Like I said, I wanted this show to be all for the men, but I also wanted it to be for the women hearing this. As a man that is going through a vulnerable time, that wants to talk about it, does not know the exact opening or things like that, as your spouse or as your wife, what do you want your wife to do in those situations? Like how can we be there to support you? Like, that's the question. How can we support you men to be able to give you the keys to be open and vulnerable with us, so that we can have, I don't say happy wife, happy life. I say happy spouse, happy house. That is my thing. Because if my husband's not happy, I'm not happy. And maybe I'm the only woman out there that feels that. I don't know, but I do know that, and I'm very empathic, so I know what something's going on, and he doesn't tell me, but I know something's going on. What is the best way we can support you? So I'm going to go with Mark first. What is the best way we can support you?
Oh, I was hoping you'd come to you last, but that's all right. Honestly, I run into a situation because my wife has a background in mental health and mental health counseling. So for me, with her specifically, she falls into that therapist mindset. And it's like, I have to remind her, I don't need a therapist right now, I need a wife. But what it comes down to is just being able to listen and understand and just being there. We want to talk to somebody, and the person that we should be able to be the most vulnerable with should be our spouse or our significant other, and that should be judgment free because we should be able to build each other up. The same thing works, if your spouse is, if my wife is going through something, and it's being able to be there and just listen. We just want to be heard because a lot of times in the circles we run in, we're not always heard. Or it's that mentality that we don't want to open up right there because we don't want to be perceived as weak or less than. So it's just being supportive, being that ear, being that shoulder to cry on, and not trying to fix anything or give advice, just to listen. And that's, for me, that's the biggest thing. I just want someone to listen. And that's pretty much it. Just that shoulder to cry on and that empathetic ear.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So Drew, I'm going to go to you next. And I know that you guys, I know you guys have been divorced and through that, but for your future spouse or future girlfriend, what is it that you would like them to know?
Well, for me, you hear people say 50%, 50%. It's 100%, 100%. First of all, in a relationship, I got to give 100%. She's got to give 100%. What I educate a lot of people, what I will do for the future girlfriend, future wife, will be the first 3 words in every sentence are the most important 3 words, most important words in this sentence. So, please, without judgment, please just listen. It's setting expectations. So the 100% accountability on the man to set expectations with the woman by saying, I just need you to listen. I'm just venting. Please don't judge. And I'm not looking for advice. I'm just, start it out there, because then the 100% accountability falls on the woman to respect that. What I have seen a lot is a woman may give their man permission to be vulnerable. The man will do it. And body language speaks volumes. The woman will roll eyes, shrug shoulders, or huff. That's going to get the man to shut down. So if you give permission to your man to be vulnerable, pay strong attention to your body language. You need to believe it and mean it when you say it, because what a lot of women do is shame. And Brene Brown has a great talk on shame. So I would do first 3 words in every sentence. Men, you're 100% accountable with that. And women, be 100% sure that when you give permission for your man to be vulnerable, that you mean it and you watch your body language.
Thank you. Andrew, what would you say?
What was the question again?
So to your future wife or girlfriend, what advice would you give to her so that she could support you in being open, vulnerable, and having that connection in the relationship?
When it comes to human behavior, I think the best thing is sharing the person's story. So in those moments, if she notices I'm having a rough time, the best way to get me to open it up would be to share something that she can, kind of resonate with me. But attentiveness is always something that I agree, or I would say. And, wake up every day and ask yourself, how can I make my partner's life easier today, every single day? And when you wake up with that mentality, it changes your approach. And like Drew was saying, we shut down when you shame us. Well, if you remove that veil, now we can actually see each other for what we are, and we can conversate. And the idea is to create a comfort zone between you two, where you can be vulnerable with compassion and zero judgment, because compassion is the opposite of judgment. And you want to make sure that you're encouraging and not deflating. You want to make sure that you're opening your arms and not turning your back. And I think a lot of people with their like Drew kind of nailed a couple things by your body language is key. You got to be engaged. Look at me and talk to me with a tone that you care, not in a way that you're dismissive and my problems don't matter. So that's kind of what I would say.
I love that. Thank you. And Jermaine, what would you say to your girlfriend or future spouse that you needed in order to be able to be vulnerable and to open up and to be you?
See, everything, since I've got diagnosed with cancer, my whole thing is to look within. I look at, okay, if I want to share and I want to make this relationship better, I'm going to be the first person to, right? Because I think it takes a lot of strength to show your vulnerability first. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's what's on me. So as I share my vulnerability, she shares hers, and then the lines become open. So instead of saying, what can you do for me? What could I do for myself? Because sharing to me is almost selfish, right? I got to get this off my chest. Whether she's listening or she doesn't, I still feel the sense that I got it off my chest. Mm-hmm. Now, hopefully she will embrace that and will understand and listen, right? And that's what we're hoping. And I don't want a solution to the problem, because sometimes you just want to, just like Mark said, you want an ear to listen. Yeah. And you don't want a solution. You just want to vent and get it off your chest, and then maybe say, okay, well, what do you think about this? Now, if I don't say, what do you think about it? That means I don't really want a solution. I want to figure it out. I just wanted to say it out loud, and I didn't want to talk to myself.
Right. Can I just say thank you guys, because you really have helped me in this, because as somebody who is a fixer and I don't want to fix him, I want to fix the problem. You really opened my eyes to just allow him to be who he needs to be supportive, be there when he wants to talk, and not making him wrong for anything, making sure that my body language and my tonality and everything is there, and just listen to what he's got to say. You don't have to fix it.
No.
And that takes the pressure off her too, because as women, well, myself, I know I'm not the typical woman. As myself, we feel the pressure over here that we have to be everything for him too. So we don't, as long as we're open in communication, like Drew said, what our needs are. This is what I need from you right now, just to listen. I think by stating our intention first, that's powerful for both of you.
Sure.
I got another little piece for you, Dorothy. You'll love this one. The human brain is pretty amazing. So men and women. So physically, the male brain, we can shut off and not be thinking about anything. The female brain cannot shut off, is always about thinking. So when a woman asks a man, what are you thinking? And the man says nothing, he's telling you the truth.
And as a woman, that's something I don't understand.
Yeah, and women will go back and say, no, really, what are you thinking? So you're making the man make up something that he was thinking, and then you're not authentic. Let him be his authentic self. If we say we're not thinking about anything, we can do that.
Thank you, Drew. I have learned that, and I put it into practice, but there's still part of me that thinks, how can that be possible? Yeah. But thank you for saying that. Guys, I just want to thank you so much for being here today, for giving up your Monday night, for being here. And this is a powerful episode. Like the amount of people's lives that are being changed from this episode alone. We'll never know until we get to heaven, what that's going to be like. But thank you so much for sharing your story, for being vulnerable and authentic, for just sharing from the heart, because I know when we share our story, we help other people. If you would like especially for the coaches, and anybody, if you wanted to tell us where we can get a hold of you. So if any man wants to, like, if anybody wants to join your group, your men's vulnerability group, Drew, or share where we could reach you, and we'll go from there. So whoever wants to go first. Okay, Drew, go first.
My website is Profit Compassion, so PROFIT Compassion, COMPASSION.com, or you can email me at drew@profitcompassion.com. Love to have a chat.
Okay. Andrew, did you want to give out your information?
Yes, my lifestyle coaching contact is Mason Soul Solutions. You can reach me at MAISON Soul SOUL Solutions. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and I don't have a website as of now, but I will.
Awesome. And Jermaine?
I'm on Facebook. Just look up Jermaine Jackson. Me and a few guys, we started a little talk, pretty much men's talk, similar to a podcast type thing, where we share a lot of our vulnerabilities, just different tips about how you can improve your oneself. Also, I do a transformation business where I take individuals that are overweight. I try to work on their mental as well as their physical. And that will be on, you can find that information on my Facebook as well. My Instagram is Jermaine, JERMAIN 3 in Jackson. And you can find me on Instagram. So there's a lot of information there, and doing a lot of things as far as men. And, even you guys, I would love for you guys to maybe join us to keep this going.
Absolutely. And Mark?
Um,
I don't know if you want to talk about heroes, badges, and warriors. I wasn't sure.
What, my favorite subject?
Yeah, your favorite subject.
Yeah, I recently started time at Dorothy, working with Heroes, Badges, and Warriors, which focuses on mental health recovery of our veterans and first responders through horses, barbecue, and water, through animal events, food events, and then water-based events, sailing, fishing, kayaking, canoeing, and with more to come. We're in the process of starting up some social events to bring people together to become vulnerable, to break down some of this stigma that we have. You can find our website at ourhbw.life, or email us directly at ourhbwlife@gmail.com. If you want to get involved, want to help out, see what we have going on as we build and grow, and help more people.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I just want to give one last shout out to our sponsor of the show, Be Oily with Bonnie, for all your doTERRA oil needs. Get a hold of Bonnie. She is actually certified in the Aromatouch technique. So definitely get a hold of her. Go to www.beoilywithbonnie.com or give her a call or text at 810-414-0929. And again, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here, sharing your stories, opening up so that other men too know that they're not alone. And for us women, we now have a better understanding of what you guys go through, how we can be a support system to you. So again, go like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and continuously to watch this episode and share it with other people, because this episode was extremely powerful. So thank you again, guys, for being here today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be unstoppable in all you do, guys. See you same channel, same time next week. Bye for now.